Let's get to Tennessee and Florida here. Joe, another overtime thriller. Tennessee at home. Florida almost knocks off Tennessee. How did you see this game?
I kind of laugh at the fact that you're using the word thriller because I don't think many Tennessee fans would classify this as a thriller. I think that this was a heart attack.
As a non-fan to either one of them, that was a really good football game.
Sure, but it also was a huge heart attack because what we talked about, it's supposed to be a get-right opportunity. It's supposed to be a game where you start to feel out the rhythm of your offense, work through some of the issues. And right now, Nico has no passing touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. He went from in that early stretch of non-conference games, completing 71% of his passes and 10.4 yards per attempt to 60% and 6.9 yards per attempt. He went backwards. A lot of the things I commended him for and praised him for is that he was willing to take chances. I think he's lost his confidence. Like that's my main takeaway from this. We know what Billy is and what's happening with Florida, and I almost think it's tiresome to talk about Florida more because they're a team that's also kind of a non-factor. But Nico and this Tennessee offense just feels like it does not have the confidence that it needs to have to be firing on all cylinders. They're not going to touch the level of production that Hendon Hooker and that Vols offense had 2 years ago. They have taken huge steps back. And I got to be honest with you here. We try to come up with solutions on this show. I don't know if I have one. I really don't. The game's moving too fast for Nico right now. And I don't know if this is something that gets fixed this season or if it's going to take until next year.
What conversation did you and I have about Nico Iamaleava last week? Literally last Sunday. What was the conversation you and I had? I said what?
That he was struggling.
That he was massively struggling. And Tennessee fans came into our show and tried to laugh me out of the building, saying that it was the O-line's fault, that Oklahoma has a really good defense, and all these different situations. Okay. No, your really good defensive line and your really good front seven and your running game with Dylan Sampson is continuously winning you football games. Now, what you're doing is, and I've seen Tennessee fans do this, you'll clip a play of your left tackle and Lance Hurd giving up, but the O-line took over in the second half. You don't stress anybody out throwing the football. Joe, they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Until he starts running the football and starts being a dual threat of what he is, nobody is going to respect you throwing the football. He is not a true pocket guy. I have no idea why anybody remotely thought that he could sit in the pocket and throw the ball 30 times and think that he would carve you up. Joe, every Power 4 game that he's played so far, he has massively struggled. Joe, one of the worst teams in the Power 4 in NC State picked him off twice. Now, you could say, well, his arm got hit and he had a sailed ball. It was probably a good decision. It wasn't. It was a horrible decision. He threw it into triple coverage and it got picked. You go to Arkansas, okay, against a secondary that had been really beat up and got thrown all over against a kid in Marcel Reed. Joe, Arkansas the week before you played him threw the football around on that Arkansas secondary. A kid who's a true freshman, I might add. I don't know if it's the game's moving too fast for him. I think the reason that Heupel is running the football the way that he is because he ultimately does not trust Nico to make big plays. The first scripted drive, he looked good because he knew where he needed to go with the football. So outside of that, there was a stretch in the game where he went 2 of 10 passing. He was making very bad decisions. He was making very bad passes. He was late. I don't know what to make of him. And quite honestly, it's 100% what kept Florida in the football game. 100%. Now, did Billy Napier aid Tennessee in winning? Yeah. Joe, they went for it on 4th and 1. Yeah. And with DJ Lagway in the game, they ran a freaking jet sweep, and they had 3 inches to gain a first down. Billy's an idiot, okay? You got bailed out by bad decision-making on Billy's part too. Joe, Graham Mertz, picking this secondary apart at moments. He's 11 of 15 for over 100. What was it? He was 100. It was 11 for 15 for 125 yards and a touchdown. If Mertz plays that entire football game, you're not winning that game in overtime. That's the truth. That is the 100% truth. So they get the win. It's a good win for Tennessee to continue to be on your path. Joe, offensively throwing the football, they have a massive issue, a very massive issue. And again, I got obliterated by Tennessee fans last week for bringing this up. And now it's starting to play out. And Joe, here's the thing I would tell you the most. Against secondaries that aren't that great.
Look, I'm not ready to give up on him. I think
Don't give up on him.
I know you're not. I think that some people might be trying to give up on him. I'm not ready to. I think that all the tools are there. I still stand by. It looks like a kid where things are just moving too quickly for him. When, especially quarterbacks, when guys start to lose confidence, when it shows up on film. It shows up in their decisions. They're not as willing to take chances. I think of two very specific examples of guys who had really hot starts to their careers when they were freshmen or redshirt freshmen, and then started to fizzle out. That had a very similar situation. And I'm not saying that I think that this is what Nico becomes, but I think that there needs to be carefulness in preparing him in order for him to be successful, in order to bounce back from this. The two guys to think of, Tyler Van Dyke when he was at Miami and DJ Uiagalelei when he was at Clemson. Both started off where they were being commended as bright prospects that would be huge for the future of their programs. And we see how far they've fallen. And the reason that they've fallen is because of just their confidence falling apart, just completely deteriorating over a game-to-game basis. I'm not saying that Nico is on that path, but if they're not careful and they don't do a better job of setting him up, and I don't know exactly what that means. Like, I don't know what they need to do because I don't sit in those meeting rooms. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to pretend like I know what it looks like.
I know. Can I tell you?
Let me finish what I was just saying, though, is that Heupel, coaching staff, all of those guys in that building need to be very careful because things like this, young quarterbacks, things can get really slippery. Like Bryce Young's another good example in the NFL. Things can get slippery so quickly if you don't set these guys up to succeed when things start to go poorly. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Two reads, if they're there, throw them. If they're not, run it.
Yeah.
Get down, don't get hurt. You want them to have success? Two reads, run, get out of there.
And that's what Jalen Milroe did last year. They halfway through the season.
Jalen Milroe did.
Halfway through the season, they just told him run.
Well, I mean, Joe, you literally have Nick Saban out there saying the reason we started winning football games is we told Milroe two reads and then you're out.
And look, you put that on his shoulders, and then you gave him the off season to improve under obviously different coaching staff, but you gave him the off season to improve. And while yesterday's game wasn't great by him, he still looks twice as good as he did last year.
I agree.
So,
but the problem is either they're really worried about him getting hurt, which I can understand. Okay. I don't know if they're calling plays that best benefits his style of play. Now, Joe, is he too scared to run? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. That's a whole different topic. In reference to the game, look, there's another quarterback on the other side that's a true freshman that made some better plays than what Nico did. DJ Lagway, I mean, Joe, he throws a touchdown pass that sends it into overtime, right? Like you have a critical situation where a kid who's highly talented makes the play that Nico could wind up not making. And to be honest, and again, if we're looking at this game, I think Tennessee's run game is really good. I think their front seven is really freaking good. They have championship pieces on their team.
Yeah.
Okay. But they have an offensive situation where if they don't get it corrected, they're going to be on the outside looking in. Joe, I'm going to say this too because Florida's attached to this game. I know it's a byproduct. We keep saying this. Billy lost them the football game. Billy Napier lost Florida the football game. And
it is insane, by the way, that like we live in this world where he should be fired, but we have no idea when it's going to happen because of their administrative mess.
Joe,
It's just so stupid.
I don't. You're going for it on 4th down, and you have one of the best running quarterbacks as a young freshman. I get it, and you're running a jet sweep on 4th and 3 inches. Again,
It's inexcusable. It's well, and there was a missed field goal too, where they had 12 guys on the field. Or not a missed field goal, but a field goal that got called back because they had 12 men on the field. Like stupid shit like that.
Well, I'm just going to tell every Tennessee fan this, rivalry or not. If Graham Mertz finishes that football game, you're losing. Joe, here's another thing about this Tennessee team. Joe, if Graham Mertz can pick the secondary apart, what do other teams that have a pulse, what can they do? Because here's the truth. Taylon Green did it. Graham Mertz did it. I mean, you got better opponents that you're going to face that are better than them. So, again, man, Joe, when does Tennessee play Alabama? Is it this week or next week?
Next week. Let me double check. I think it's the
3rd week in October is the rivalry. So I don't know. This is going to be the
that's this weekend.
So Tennessee versus Bama is this weekend.
That's the 19th. Yeah.